Guys, before we get started in today's video, I was looking at some YouTube analytics, and those scumbags over at Falcons Today recently put out a video that got 255 likes. So I have a challenge for you, Who Dat Nation. Let's beat it. Let's get to 300 likes and bury the Falcons, bury our baby brothers, and help me out by impressing the bosses. Welcome into Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trace Girouard. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. Now, I was kind of having a tough time as to, what I wanted to talk about when I was trying to figure out the script for this video. And I'm not going to lie, I came across a wild report on social media. And the report was kind of suggesting that maybe a Alontae Taylor trade could be in the near future. And the report was that Saints coaches are not happy with the former second-round pick. So could he be traded? Now, I want to give credit to the sources where I found this information. So I'm going to give it to Battle Rap Bets. BryanTNR, I believe, is his old name. He's had a couple different Twitter accounts and whatnot. But here's what he posted today, or Friday, May 10th, earlier in the morning. He said, to be clear, the Saints coaches ain't happy with this. Insert MF. Insert rest of the letters. Had to bleep it out because of YouTube and whatnot. And I'm not the only person that's heard this. It's become widely known information. Now, I kind of wrote this off at first. I was like, whatever. Just a guy on Twitter just blabbering about whatever. But then I saw this quote tweet, and I was like, well, if one guy's talking about it and, somebody who has a little bit of a platform, I'm going to talk about it as well. Said if he can't play in the slot, then he can play special teams. I know my eyes didn't deceive me his rookie season. Now, to be quite honest, this is news to me. Anything about Alontae Taylor, upsetting the Saints front office and making the coaching staff unhappy, and I have not seen anything like this. This is the first time I've ever heard anything around this. I know that there's been some ups and downs with Alontae Taylor's career, but I haven't seen anything else about this. I haven't seen Ross Jackson. I haven't seen John Hendricks. I haven't seen Nick Underhill. I haven't seen Catherine Terrell. I haven't seen any of the major outlets that discuss Saints updates talk about this quite yet. So if we're one of the first ones on the story, then guess that's a good reason to subscribe. But taking a look at the depth chart here for New Orleans, I can understand where Alontae Taylor may be a little bit upset and kind of feels like he's been cast out. He was much better on the outside, but, there's not really a spot for him, as Paulson Adebo and Marshon Lattimore are both very, very good cornerbacks. Now, if Lattimore gets traded, that opens up the starting position for a outside corner, and I think Alontae Taylor could fill that in really nicely, but you also have a pretty nice depth chart and some decent depth in the cornerback position. Now, in terms of why I would keep Alontae Taylor, because honestly, I think that's what I'm leaning towards. He does fit the New Orleans Saints culture. I think that he has a lot of swagger. He plays with a lot of energy. He plays so damn fearless, and that's where that fearless aggression comes in right there. He has absolutely zero fear. It doesn't matter if he's a rookie having to lock down Davante Adams and DeAndre Hopkins. If you ask him to do it, he's going to do his frickin' job. And on top of that, the ball skills have only gotten better, and the improvements have been better. And sure, he's been bailed out by some bad throws or some underthrows or, good positioning, but he is a player that does have a lot of talent, and I do think that some of the traits that he has directly translate to better football, specifically for the New Orleans Saints. And I do think that he could possibly be a starter on the outside around the league, but again, there's just not necessarily a spot for him as a starter. But why would you trade away Alontae Taylor? Well, you drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry in the second round. You actually traded up to go and get him. And he is more of an outside corner. So unless this whole Alontae Taylor slot spot or slot position, slot corner, experiment works out, then, it's going to be kind of tough to also incorporate Kool-Aid McKinstry and also get to, you see what I'm saying? Because he struggled a little bit in the slot, and he was very much so picked on when he was lining up in the middle, was benched multiple times throughout the offseason or throughout the 2023 season. And on top of that, he just he was getting picked on, especially in that Rams game. And he was able to put up some good production against the Packers and whatnot, but it was very high, it was very low. So that is something that I'm a little bit, weary of. And then I've seen this on social media. I've asked for specific examples. I've asked for please, what do you mean by quote unquote, he talks too much? And that's what Brian or Battle Raps Bets, he actually said it in an interview, was like, he just does all this talking, he does all this, chit chatting, but doesn't let the play on the field speak for itself. And I'm like, I mean, sure, I can agree with that. The play on the field hasn't really spoke for itself, but outside of John at an opposing receiver, which as a cornerback, that's what they all do, I haven't really seen a lot of extracurricular discussion, if you will, out on social media or out in public. But, this was posted a while back on Twitter, and I wanted to just kind of re-emphasize and bring this back up. Whenever Marcus May was cut, there was talk about, well, maybe we could throw Alontae Taylor into the safety position and let him be a part of the rotation. He said no. He said nah. I mean, directly hit it on that nail on the head, did not skip a beat, attacked this idea right on the head. Said nah. Now, my take around Alontae Taylor, I'm going to be honest, I have no intention and I have no desire to trade him. I want to keep Alontae Taylor in New Orleans for a very, very long time. And to be quite honest, I think that you have the possibility of having a really, really nice cornerback duo of young players with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor. And on top of that, of course, you have Marshon Lattimore, and of course you have Paulson Adebo, but Adebo is going to be a free agent in 2025, so maybe that this is kind of the path of, well, you'll start here. I don't know. There's just a lot of different possibilities, but in terms of attitude concerns and in terms of he's not making the team happy and the team's not happy with him or he's not happy, whatever, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I really make much of that. I don't know how much of that, I'm not going to say I disagree with, but how much of that I think is necessarily true. If there is attitude problems, if there is disagreements, it just needs to be handled internally. Don't take it to social media. Don't take it to a radio station. Don't take it to a podcast. Handle it internally, address the issue, and move on. But I want you to be the GM for me. Put on your hat of Mickey Loomis. Would you trade Alontae Taylor? Just give me a simple trade or a simple pass in the comment section. I'm going to be spamming my passes down below. But I want to discuss a trade rumor around a offensive tackle because I do think that the New Orleans Saints should address at least bringing in another offensive tackle. Whether it's trade, whether it's free agency, not a lot of options, but Dan Moore Jr. is certainly one that has been kind of floated around across the NFL rumors mill. He's been linked in a lot of trade rumors recently, especially around the Washington Commanders. And on top of that, like I said, New Orleans could use some help at offensive tackle. And I will say this, the former fourth-round pick out of Texas A&M from 2021 has logged over 3,000 snaps at left tackle in his 3-year career. And to be honest, I really like having Taliese Fuaga be your starting right tackle. And this is what I think the starting offensive line will be. I'm not saying this is 100% it, but I think that these 5 guys you see on your screen are going to be your starting offensive line. And in terms of the depth behind Trevor Penning, Olu Udoh is an interesting swing tackle option, and Landon Young, there's familiarity there. But, I mean, I'm going to be honest, in a perfect world, you just have Trevor Penning pan out. You have him take big-time steps in terms of his development and his production, so that way he is a good player for the New Orleans Saints. But I do think that the black and gold should be ready and should be prepared just in case. And if they fully have faith in, Olu Udoh being your starter, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, I guess that's what we're going to have to do. But, I mean, the best thing for all parties and for every single fan is for Trevor Penning to just work out and be a good football player. Now, I got a lot more thoughts to get to here in just a moment, but I just want to encourage you really quick to subscribe today. We got daily Saints videos. We bring you breaking news coverage, whether it's in our short form content, whether it's a full video, and sometimes we even go live for breaking updates around the black and gold. We also have regular weekly live shows every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Time, so please feel free to come hang out and kick it with us on Wednesday afternoons. And the best part of it all, it's all 100% free. So if you want the best Saints coverage on YouTube, hit that big red sub button. Now, Dan Moore Jr.'s production, it's not going to be anything that you're like, wow, we have to go get this guy, or how in the hell are the Steelers looking at trading this player? Well, they did draft Troy Fontenot, so they don't really necessarily need Dan Moore Jr. And the 8 sacks allowed, 3 penalties, I mean, those are not good, and the pass blocking is just atrocious. To be honest, I think you could put my dead great-grandmother at the left tackle position. He'd probably be a little bit better than Dan Moore at pass blocking at least. But, again, jokes. Sorry if Dan Moore Jr.'s family's watching. I'm so sorry. But I had to make a joke here. In my trade idea, I think that you could go ahead and, ask for Dan Moore Jr., but then you just give up a conditional 2025 6th-round pick, and the conditions of it, if he doesn't play X amount of time, or if he doesn't have X amount of reps, or if they don't have X amount of wins, or whatever it is, it's just a 7th-round pick. So, 6th or 7th-round pick for a experienced, not great experience, but experienced nonetheless, left tackle with over 3,000 snaps logged in the NFL. I don't feel like that's really all that bad of an option. So let me know in the comment section. It's your turn to be the general manager. Would you do this trade? Type A for accept, type D for decline. And I'm going to be really transparent with you. I actually don't even think that you need to do this trade. And I'm going to explain why here in just a moment. But I got to give a big time shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and it is Fanatics. If you want this absolutely icy white Saints hat, has the rope and everything, that's a damn good looking hat. Go to chatsports.com/Saints hats. It's perfect for Bourbon Street, perfect for a cookout, perfect if you're just hanging out by the pool. Go get yourself geared up and have some nice headwear for the football season coming up here in just a few months. Use the link. It's in the comment section and description of this video. chatsports.com/Saints hats. So I will say this. It is worth mentioning. If you have really good production from a Josiah Ezirim, who was your 7th-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, I think that you're doing just okay, because I truly do believe he is much more impressive than what a lot of us initially thought, and what a lot of us see as, oh, it's a 7th-round pick, okay, whatever, he's probably not going to make the roster. But to be honest, I think Josiah Ezirim has the potential to not only make the roster, but in the long term, be a regular part of the offensive line. And whether it's as a rotational piece or as a starter in the future, who knows? But 6'6", 329 pounds. He has a really nice combination of size and speed. He's a really good athlete and tested well at the scouting combine with an 8.51 relative athletic score. And the Saints do value that relative athletic score very highly. I think that's why they are taking a 7th-round waiver on a player like Josiah Ezirim. And like I said, he was the number 245th overall pick by New Orleans out of Eastern Kentucky. So small school guy, but he is the definition of draft and stash and then throw him to, let him develop, let him do whatever, practice and learn, and then just let him play after some time. And he was a 2-year starter. Pretty interesting enough. He actually started as a defensive tackle, and then he moved over to offensive tackle, and he was invited to the East-West Shrine game, which was pretty cool. It's kind of one of those all-star games and that go with the college football in terms of the scouting process. And look at the production. It's pretty damn solid. Not a lot of penalties. He had 0 sacks allowed. He's really good in the zone. He has a nice run blocking grade, a nice pass blocking grade, an overall grade that's really impressive. And on top of that, he was actually part of the offensive line when Eastern Kentucky ranked 3rd nationally in passing yards per game with 329.7 yards per game. And they were 5th in 3rd down percentage nationally across all of college football with a .519 conversion percentage back in 2022. So I do think that that is some really good things to look at, and I think that those are things that are really valuable, and I think that he's a smart player, and the Saints know that, and that is one of the reasons why I think that they drafted him. Jahri Evans got extra look at the Shrine Bowl because he was one of the coaches out there, so hey, feels like it was a match made in heaven. And just to kind of round this out and put the bow on all of this conversation, I do believe having Taliese Fuaga on the roster makes this whole process easier because he can play right tackle. He's got more snaps there at right tackle, but he also has the ability to possibly move over to the left side. So if Trevor Penning doesn't pan out and, you don't really have an option, but say Ryan Ramczyk is healthy, well, then you just move Taliese Fuaga over to the left side. Or maybe Penning does pan out and you do have a nice option at the backup at Josiah Ezirim, and then you can just keep Taliese Fuaga on the right side. And honestly, it kind of goes the same with Alontae Taylor, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Marshon Lattimore, and Paulson Adebo. You can kind of just rotate the four of them in any combination, and I feel like it's going to be a nice defensive package right here as well as the offensive line. But I want you to tell me, Saints fans, last question before we hop on out of here. Will Josiah Ezirim play in 2024? I'm not asking if he's going to be a starter. I'm not asking if he's going to get a ton of reps. But do you think he's just going to play for the New Orleans Saints this season? Just give me a play or a sit. And y'all stay golden. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next time.